All right, is everybody ready to go? Yes? Yes? Maybe no? Yes? Okay. Awesome. But yeah, what's it called? I'm sure Roshni may have mentioned that she's not here today. She mentioned it. So like I'm actually filling in with Roshni for today. And I actually teach section A. Does anybody have friends in section A who are taking the course on Wednesdays? Sorry, Mondays 11:30. Nobody? No? Okay. It's all right. So like Roshni and I have been talking a lot because we're doing the exact same thing. She's doing it today, and I do it on Mondays. And she told me a lot about like what the class is like, and I do your quizzes and how things go and all that type of stuff. And yeah, I think for starters, like my style is a bit different. I hope like it appeals to you. Yeah, and one thing I'm gonna mention, I'm actually recording this for my class so they can see, because I won't be teaching them for the next class. So I want them to actually take this in so they can have the experience to also view like what actually happens in this class. But yeah, in terms of for starting off, what I always do for my class is like I like it when everybody's talking. I like it when there's actually some engagement. So I get everybody to start, like we always start off like this, and every single week. We always have our 3 prompts. Like everybody gets their name, tell me a little bit about like what's going on with their lives, and then finally something to do with the actual lesson for today. And just a quick little recap so you can see kind of like what I do is like last class was about, does everybody remember what last class was? It was about, what was it? Perception, right? Perception, right? So like what we talked about last time was like thinking about your 5 senses, how important it is to view marketing through the lens of your various senses. Then we looked at like how colors, right? Or colors, like depending on like a color can represent a feeling, right? And when we look at different sectors, we notice that brands from various sectors, like for instance, like in the nonprofit sector, like blue and green is so typical because blue and green is like peace, trustworthiness, and you see it so often. And I got my class to actually like review some of these and share some thoughts on that. And then we talked about like, things that we always see in our lives, like things that affect us. And like everyone kind of recognized the guy up there. We talked a little bit about like if you drink coffee out of a red cup versus a green cup, how it can actually taste different, even though it's the exact same thing. We looked at how there's like engineering happens in cars. It can seem like you're one with the car. And then we talked about like imagine yourselves in a 4 Seasons hotel. Sorry, a 4 Seasons hotel lobby. What would the experience be? Like what would the 5 senses, like how would you experience it? And we kind of crafted that narrative, and everyone actually had a really cool sort of narrative to say about that. Then we talked about the absolute threshold, all the good stuff, all the boring stuff, but how the Weber's law, and then we did a little bit of a understanding of what attention was, interpretation, and then like the only reason I bring this up is because I thought it was kind of cool with our last lesson that we did, and like the way we ended it off last time was like I told everybody to imagine you get a bag like fries, right? Imagine it's like McCain's fries, but you get it in a bag at McDonald's versus like a generic like white plastic bag. Would it taste different? And for most people, they actually realize, yeah, it actually would taste different because if you get it in a branded bag, just perceptually, you're like, oh my God, it has to be McDonald's. It's probably going to taste better. And we really thought hard on that concept. But I only give that to you as a little bit of a review because I think perception is actually quite relevant for today's lesson, which is, can anyone tell me what today's lesson is about? Learning and memory. Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Okay, perfect. So that being said, like I've done my little spiel, I've done my talking. I always start, so it's not too, I'm not like just, I can't be asking and not really giving anything, right? So I'll start off myself. So for those that don't know me, my name is Akash. If you have a hard time remembering it, just think of cash, like money. That's an easy way to remember it. And like all my students, they don't call me professor or sir. Everybody calls me Akash, and that's the way I like it to be here as well. In terms of plans for reading week, I don't have a reading week, but next week, like the reason why I can't teach my class for week 5 is we're organizing this big conference called the Toronto Global Forum, and we're bringing in a lot of different speakers for the 3 days. It's at the Fairmount Royal York, and I'm just gonna be planning for that all week next week. So it should be an interesting week. But my class, like I know they had a lot of exciting things that they were doing for their reading week. I have people like planning for their siblings' weddings. I have people like wanting to like study. I have people wanting to do a lot of fun stuff. It's really cool. In terms of brand advertisement, the last brand advertisement I saw was when I was prepping for this lesson plan today, and I was reading the textbook. So I guess like I have to say that because I was literally just looking at it. It was like that Pepsi campaign about like how they show like, oh, like, does anyone remember it? It's like the little blue one, and it shows like different like sports figures, and it tries to say like, oh, like we're like all united or something like that. So like that was the last brand advertising. I was just looking at that. So with that being said, I'll get everybody to do this too. So you're gonna go like 1, 2, 3, and what we'll do is we'll start on this side of the room and slowly make your way over all the way to this side. So we'll start right here.
So my name is Anthony.
And after the person says their name, and I know it's a bit corny, but I really want everybody to try this. After the person says their name, just be like, hi blank, right? So try it again.
My name is Anthony.
Hi Anthony.
Hi everyone. Plans for Week. Honestly nothing much. The pumpkin is working quite a bit, but that's okay. And last advertisement I saw was for Starbucks this morning on my phone.
Nice. Thank you, Anthony.
My name is Tolu.
Hi Tolu.
Yeah. Plans for I might go I've lost friend. I was on YouTube, but I'm so Hello Fresh.
Hello Fresh. Cool. Nice. Thank you.
My name's Emer.
Hi Emer.
I'm from Ireland, so for Reading Week, my parents have come over to visit me, so I'm going to travel a bit with them. And last advertisement stuff is the new iPhone.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Cornelia.
Hi Cornelia.
Plans were really kind of just getting over my cold and seeing friends and like from different universities. And the last advertisement I saw was also the Pepsi one in the textbook with like the lady.
Yeah. No, gotcha. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good.
Hi everyone, my name is Anish.
Hi Anish.
My plans for Reading Week are I'm going with my friends on college trip to Rome, and the last advertisement I saw was a possible on the
Costco. Thank you. Very good.
Hi, my name is Samia.
Hi Samia.
And my plans for Reading Week is applying to BC. And the last advertisement I saw was on my Instagram of Steve Madden.
Steve Madden. Thank you. Very good.
Hi, my name is Leanna.
Hi Leanna.
Reading Week, I'm planning a surprise birthday party for my best friend. And the last brand advertisement I saw was for PC Coffee on TikTok.
PC Coffee. Okay, nice. Thank you.
My name is Nika.
Hi Nika.
For Reading Week, I'm just going to catch up on schoolwork, see some friends and family for Thanksgiving. The last brand advertisement I saw was Nike out of my email. So.
Nice. Thank you. Very good.
Hi, my name is Sabrina.
Hi Sabrina.
My plans for Reading Week is probably just relaxing and like catching up on work. And then the last advertisement I saw was Starbucks on TikTok.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Very good.
I'm Andrea.
Hi Andrea.
I'm probably gonna just like relax through Reading Week. And the last ad I saw was the Nordstrom on Instagram.
No, we're sorry. Okay. Thank you. Very good.
Hi, I'm Alessia.
Hi Alessia.
My plans for Reading Week are just to study and chill. The last brand advertisement that I saw was for Aldo on TikTok.
Thank you. Very good. Sorry, one more time. Just one. Hi Samantha.
My plans for Reading Week are just to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family and catch up with friends. And the last brand advertisement I saw was, I think it was Witzia on Instagram.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Romney.
Hi Romney.
Is just hanging out with my friends and what is the last brand advertisement? So I think I saw a Ralph Lauren advertisement on my email.
Oh, where did you see it, sir? On your email. Thank you. Right over here.
My name is Andrea.
Hi Andrea.
So my plans for Reading Week are probably just catch up with work and study, and also probably get started with my exchange application next week. And the last brand advertisement I saw was probably like a brand we have or something like that.
Oh, what's her? A Grammarly. Oh yeah. It's the one where the guy like comes in with the stuff.
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Right over here.
Hey everyone, I'm Glenn.
Hi Glenn.
My for you is probably to catch up on some sleep. And the last brand advertisement for
Oreo. Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. Right over here.
Hi, everyone. Nikhil.
Hi Nikhil.
what my last reading week
What does everybody think? Does that count? Does that count? I think it counts. And Sarah Nikhil, for baseball, are you supporting a particular team?
Well, I guess I'm support playoffs, but yeah, like,
Do you have any predictions you want to tell the class about who's going to win?
we won't make it past the second round.
Wow, thank you. Cautious optimism. No problem. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
And my plans for reading is just to after school and spend time with family and friends. And then the last friend I saw was probably the phone for at the movie theaters.
At the movie theaters. Okay, nice. Thank you. Right over here.
My name's Emily.
Hi, Emily.
So my plans for reading week are probably just to relax and catch up on some schoolwork. And then the last brand advertisement I saw was for Fossil.
Fossil. I haven't heard about that in a while. That was awesome. Thank you. Right over here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hussein.
Hi, Hussein.
My training there's doing some schoolwork, catching up on sleep, and all the balance. The last brand advertisement I saw was for
On Instagram. Okay, thank you, Hussein. We'll go right over here.
Hi, my name is Beautiful.
Sorry?
Beautiful.
No, my name is Simon.
Sorry. I was like, what? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Simon.
Sorry, what was that, everybody?
Hi.
Simon.
My plans for reading is just catching up on work and sleep. That's about it. And the last brand advertisement I saw was the new McCrispy ad from McDonald's. Just like your chicken.
Nice. Thank you so much, Simon. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Savit.
So one more time.
Savit.
Savin.
Savit.
Okay, everybody, 3, 2, 1. Hi, Savin.
Yeah, and my plan for reading week are to study for my finance midterm.
Okay.
And then the last ad I saw was for Baltic watches on YouTube.
Baltic watches. Nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. My plans for reading week are primarily just reading, I guess. I have a lot midterm, so a lot of that. And the last advertisement I can remember having seen was Popeyes.
Popeyes.
Yeah,
On TV or?
on TV. Yeah, it was like a jingle.
Okay,
You
nice.
know, they didn't even. I don't even think they showed the food. It's just, yeah. So.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name's Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Our plans for reading week is hang out with friends and family, and the last advertisement I saw was some Gordon's on Instagram.
Nice. Thank you so much. Right over here. Hi, Alyssa. Sorry, what was it? Notions. Okay, nice. Thank you. Right over here.
So my name is Andre.
Hi, Andre.
We're doing our plan to study a little bit and then over during the family. And last brand advertisement I saw is Grammarly in my Gmail.
Nice. Okay, cool. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, I'm Lana.
Hi, Leanna.
My plans for reading week are spending time with my family since they're visiting from back home. And the last advertisement I saw was in my email from the Reads.
Good reads. Okay, nice. Thank you so much. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Claudia.
Hi, Claudia.
My plans for the reading week are visiting Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto with my mom. And the last brand that I saw was also on Gmail. It was for Ryanair, so cheap flights.
Okay. And you're traveling soon, so you're seeing Reiner.
Yeah, but Ryanair is like in Europe, so.
Nice. Okay, cool. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
My plans for reading week are just to spend time with family and also some friends who were at school abroad. And then the last advertisement I saw was for Banana Republic on Instagram.
Nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Jason.
Hi, Jason.
My plans for reading week is mainly just to study.
Just study.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
study.
Wow. Still studious.
And the last brand I saw was for Gatorade on Instagram.
Nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi everyone, my name is Selena.
Hi, Alina.
The plans for reading week is to spend time with family and also have a little Thanksgiving dinner. And the last brand advertisement I saw was Beef Selena.
Nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Julia.
Hi, Julia.
And my plan for this week would be just like hanging out with my friends. And the last brand that I saw was Arista on my phone.
On your email? Okay, nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Celine.
Hi, Sinine.
So my plan for reading week is to celebrate my birthday and then to study for my business in longer term. And then the last advertisement I saw was for Polo Ralph Lauren on Instagram.
Nice. Thank you so much. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Ravneet.
Hi, Ravneet.
My plans for reading week are to study for the LSAT, and the last brand advertisement I saw was for H&M in my email.
Nice. Thank you. Right over here.
Hey guys, my name's Isa,
Hi, Isa.
and my plan for the reading week is to crash this girl's party because apparently I didn't get the invitation yet. So
Not
you
yet.
will be seeing
Not
me.
yet. Not yet. Not yet.
So you will be seeing me. And the last advertisement I saw was for an espresso with George Clooney on my TV, which apparently worked because before I left, I did get coffee.
Wow. Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much. Right over here.
So hi everyone, I'm Alishka.
Hi, Alishba.
Yeah. My plans for reading week are just to like make plans with some of my friends and also to study for the midterms that I have. And the last brand advertisement I saw, I remember seeing an internet ad for the ordinary newsletters.
For the what, sir?
The
For the ordinary. Nice. Interesting. Really cool. And they're so like focused on Instagram ads as an
Yeah,
organization.
they're like on my story. You can look it up.
Cool. Awesome. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Enzo.
One more time.
Enzo.
Henzo. Okay, awesome. Sorry, everybody. 3, 2, 1. Hi, Enzo.
And for the reading week, I plan to go to Los Angeles for Prague near Calgary, just to cover. The last brand advertisement I saw is on Instagram about Patagonia.
Oh, what was the brand?
Patagonia.
Oh, Patagonia. And like, did you find it interesting about the new news about Patagonia? Does
Yeah, about the donation.
yeah. When after hearing that news, when you see Patagonia, has it changed a little bit of your thoughts about it, or
Yeah.
yeah? Did you feel like it's like, oh, like I like Patagonia more or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's good for the engagement of people to buy the brand because they do something good. So
Nice, because like we like in our class on Monday, we talked a lot about that Patagonia story when it just came out. So thank you for mentioning that. We'll continue the conversation right over here.
Hi, my name is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
For win, my plan is going to Bound and Yellowstone. And the last advertisement I saw was probably for
Western Union. Nice. Okay, thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Krishna.
Hi, Krishna. Sorry, everybody. Ooh, come on. Let's try this. We're almost there. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Hi, Krishna.
My plans for reading were probably visit my dad in Texas, and then the last I saw was for Auto Trader on Instagram.
Nice. Okay. Really cool. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Marco.
Hi, Marco.
My plans for reading week is just really to sleep and do a little bit of work. And the last brand advertisement that I saw was an Adidas ad in my email.
Adidas ad. Nice. Really cool. Thank you. Right over here.
Hi, my name is Aida.
Hi, Ida.
My plans for reading week are just to explore Toronto more and visit terms. And the last brand advertisement I saw was Hello Fresh.
Hello Fresh. Nice. We're getting and if you're listening, you probably saw some repetitions because maybe those brands are doing a better job. Maybe that's interesting. Sorry, I think I missed you over here.
My name is Tejveer.
Hi, Tejveer.
My plans for reading week, other than study, I'm watching a football game on Sunday before we go back to school. We're going to New York for now, so there's that. And then the last brand advertisement I saw, I guess it's kind of like a form of product placement, but yesterday I was just watching an episode of Suits, and there is a lot of Red Bull.
A lot of Red Bull.
product placement.
We're actually talking a little bit about the rights to use things like that and things like that. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Thank you. Awesome. Did I miss anybody? I didn't miss anybody, right? No, I think we got everybody. Okay, thank you. Ooh, this is great. Like when my class does it, I'm a bit biased. Like I've gotten to know everybody's names. It's always so interesting to hear like what everybody's up to every week and to also hear their take on like what they're seeing. And as you can see, it's also like it's a live survey. And we're literally doing like consumer research and analysis when you hear the brands that everyone else has seen. So you get to understand from the perspective of a marketer, like what the heck is actually going on in the field. So it's really interesting. And I hope actually we might mention some of the brands that you talked about today. Oh, and the other thing I was going to mention about reading week is like, definitely like it is important to study and do all that stuff, but definitely do take the reading week to actually like, decompress. It is very, very important to actually like have some like fun plans and do something cool. All right, with that being said, we'll continue on. Because yeah, we actually do have a lot to cover today. I'll try my best not to make it too boring. I'll try my best to keep it interesting. But like, what I'll tell you, what I'll say is this: everything I will cover will 100%, as long as you listen, you'll do very well in the quiz. That's the same way I teach my other classes. Like everything I say in the lecture, like I want to make sure, like when you see the quiz, it's oh yeah, I remember all this. So that's the way I've designed this lecture today. So let's get straight into it. All right. So number one, why the heck are we spending time learning about learning? Like why are we even like bothering to take this time to learn about learning? Like why? Like, what should we be learning about, like product play? Oh, sorry, go ahead, right over here.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of consumers make decisions subconsciously. So if you find out their thought process, you can kind of target them better.
Exactly. It's beautifully articulated there. It's like we're in the business of like trying to understand people. If we understand people, like we can sell to people. Like you can't, like if you want to sell me this like cup of coffee, you probably want to know whether or not I like coffee. You probably want to know whether or not like I want a small or a medium or a large coffee. By understanding me better, if you present me with a large coffee that's 1 milk, 1 sugar, probably it's going to work. And the whole idea is exactly like we heard here. It's like the deeper understanding is like if you understand learning and development better, you will 100% be better at marketing. And I want you to understand that like the whole process of learning in itself is a journey, and like it goes really, really deep in terms of like the various principles of psychology. But today what we're going to cover is going to be like the main principles that I think are the most relevant for our course today. All right, so we're going to focus on 3 things today. We're first going to focus on behavioral learning theories. And I know like some of these words are a bit long and a bit like, oh my God, what does this mean? But we'll make sure to get really straight. We'll try to make it as super simple as possible. So behavioral learning theories is all about helping people learn about products. That's all it is. It's helping people shape their behavior. Number 2, cognitive learning theories influence our behavior, and memory processes are all about what influences what we do. And I know this sounds like, what does this mean? But what we're going to do is like, we're going to do a deep dive into each of these 3 parts. And that's what this is all about today. We're learning about behavioral learning, cognitive learning theory, and finally a little bit about how our memories actually work. Okay. Oh, and the biggest, deepest chunk of this is the first part, the behavioral learning theories, because there's actually quite a little bit in terms of behavioral learning. All right. So in terms of learning itself. So the thing is this, like when you open up this chapter in the textbook, you realize that we're always learning every single day. Every single day, there's so much information. There's so much information flow every single day that we're constantly seeing on the internet, on our phones, all that type of stuff. And what's happened is because information is so readily available, it's so much easier to not have to remember anything. Like you don't necessarily need to remember something because you can take a picture of it. You don't need to memorize the facts that I might regurgitate today because you can just look it up, right? It's the same thing. It's like because of the conditions that the world is we're in today in 2022, and it's only going to continue to be this way, it makes having to remember things not as relevant. Or not, I wouldn't even use the word relevant. I would say it doesn't require as much effort to remember, and because you know it's so readily available. That actually has changed the way that we are because it makes it harder for us to consciously want to remember things. And that's one of the key principles that we start this thing off with. And the thing is this, like the way in consumer behavior, the way that we think about learning is learning in an ideal world is through experiences. It helps teach you. That's what it's all about. Something you can learn. Sorry, we're constantly learning. Learning is permanent change from experience. So it's like today, like this experience of you being in this classroom and it's early morning and me like kind of talking, the whole idea is hopefully this experience will allow you to learn something. And that's what learning is all about. And the thing is like, there's also unintentional learning, which is a key concept that will come up in the quiz for sure. It's like unintentional learning is like just by being somewhere, you just absorb information, unintentional. You just like, you're not even consciously thinking about it. The fact that every single day you might never buy coffee at this like coffee place here, but every morning when you come in and you always see people lining up, you might learn that people like to drink coffee, or like coffee's a thing, or like coffee is like, clearly it's working, or coffee must be something that helps people in the morning. Like that's unintentional learning. So that's also a key piece of this whole thing. Now we dive into a little bit of the meat of this thing. So in terms of theories, the very first theory we're going to talk about is classical conditioning. Has anyone ever heard of classical conditioning? Does it ring up? Yes, please.
So basically you kind of just like, I don't know. I find this funny because I tried it on one of my friends once. So it's like every time I would like cough or something like that, like it's always like sushi. And it's just like you associate one like action is like a reaction.
That's exactly it. So beautiful. I'm sorry, your example was sushi and what?
Coughing.
Coughing and
Coughing, like when I cough, we eat sushi.
you eat sushi when you're coughing.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how it ends.
Interesting.
It took a while to learn.
Interesting. Yeah, but like that's exactly it. It's like you could take things that are not obviously related, like sushi and coughing, and you can make like a linkage between them. And that's what this whole thing's all about, this classical conditioning piece. So basically, like the big concept when this came out in the world of the psychologists and all those good people was the idea was this. This is the first like major experiment that got publicized. It's like you take a bell, you ring the bell, and like obviously a bell causes like attention, like you're gonna like listen to the bell, that's obvious. And then you like meat powder, like I don't know what meat powder, I don't know about meat powder, but like dogs apparently like when you put meat powder in their mouths or it gets close to their mouths, they're already like salivating, like they're already like starting to like they're starting to drool in other words. So the idea here is that if you always sort of go like, oh, like every time I ring the bell, I'm going to give you food. Every single time I give you food, you're going to obviously drool and all that type of stuff. And all of a sudden, like the linkage starts to form. It's like, I know this is going to cause the dog to get attention. And I'm going to keep feeding the dog every single time I ring the bell. Now, every single time I ring the bell, the dog knows like, oh, food's probably on its way. So similarly, it's like the coughing and the sushi, I suppose, like every time you keep getting the sushi when you're coughing and you get better, you're probably like the next day you cough, oh, I have sushi. Like that's kind of like the same concept there. So that it's sort of eliminating like these other variables. So like the bell is obvious. Everyone knows what the bell is. Like forget the meat powder. Now like it's obvious. It's like it's when you ring the bell, that's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen up there. The bell, like the dog is literally gonna start drooling. And we can also think about this in other like actual like marketing examples. Like I'll start and then feel free if anyone else wants to add. Like when you watch some advertisements like on Instagram ads or like on TV and stuff, have you noticed it's like you'll hear like music along with like an advertisement, like a car commercial, they'll have like a popular song, or like you'll notice I don't know, does anyone want to give me another example? Yes, please.
The McDonald's too, like pineapple plus something.
Yeah.
I mean, that always makes me think of McDonald's whenever I hear that too.
Exactly, that's beautiful. They like the people that they pay people good money who work in the marketing team at McDonald's. If you look it up, every single country they have at least like a handful of people who literally work at like consumer insights, marketing, and there's a reason for that. They get paid because like they have to be good at this. And, like clearly it's working because like yes, it's like when I hear that too, like I'm like, oh yeah, fries or like, something to do like burgers. Yes, good, awesome. Anything else? Any other sort of linkages or thoughts? Yay, Nate. Was something on here? Yes, go ahead.
Even like your like computer or like your phone, like certain companies have those like specific sounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, like notifications, right?
Exactly.
It's like some notification. Do some notifications come a bit differently on your phone?
Yeah.
And you kind of know that it's that over time because you keep seeing that. That is a brilliant example for like today's day and age. I think that is a very modern example, which is like nowadays, like the smartphone is almost king, and soon will probably be something else in the future. But it's like notifications from companies can vary. Like if you're like in UX and UI design and that type of thing, you know that you could like change the notification. You can make it so it's like a loud notification, or like obviously we can have like preferences and mute notifications and such. But like companies can be creative with how they actually do the notification or the email that comes out or whatever like the sort of messages that tells you about the brand. So okay, so that's classical conditioning, and then you're gonna see this on your quiz. Like I was confused when I was reading a couple weeks ago, so I thought I was making clear it up. It's like you'll see like UCS, CS, CR. Remember like all this jargon. It's just like the key is just like remember the main concepts, and like all you gotta remember is this: like UCS is the unconditioned stimulus, CS is the conditioned stimulus, and the CR is the conditioned response. So for instance, in this example that we've really clearly understood here is the unconditioned stimulus is meat powder. It's like, you don't need to make the linkage that like the dog is gonna start drooling. It's very obvious, like meat powder makes the dog hungry, so it's gonna like drool. It's obvious, like there's no connection needed. The conditioned stimulus is where you're teaching the dog. The bell will cause the dog to drool. That is, you conditioned it to be that stimulus. That's what CS means, right? And the conditioned response is drooling. Like that's like the desired response that you want. That's all that means. And yeah, you should be fine if you see that. And well, if necessary, like we could bring it back up later. Okay, cool. We've discussed a little bit about classical conditioning. but it's also very critical for us to understand a little bit about associative learning, because the deeper concept that classical conditioning covers is associative learning. Associative learning is its own like big branch, it's its own big tree, and classical conditioning is like the main branch that we really, really want to understand. But you need to understand associative learning. Associative learning is like basically the whole idea of like how you associate things together and they form a common identity. So like I mentioned here, like here are some of the examples of how in broader perspectives you might see the idea of associative learning. So does anyone know the commercial? Like, does anyone know the advertisement for Sleep Country? Anyone know the slogan? Does anyone tell me the slogan? What's the slogan? Yes, go in the back. Yes.
Sleep Country Canada, why buy a mattress anywhere else?
Exactly. Why buy your mattress anywhere else? Are there any other repetitive slogans? We've heard about it. Is there another one? Like Bad Boy, like nobody's better than Bad Boy. Yes. Sorry?
The alarm force has.
Yes, the alarm force. That's a good one. Is there any other ones that come to mind? Any one last one? Any takes? Last sort of ideas here? No. Bad Boy. We got Bad Boy. We got Sleep Country. We got McDonald's. We heard alarm force. Do we have a number 5? Yes. Ricola. What is your sound again, or what?
It's really just a guy blowing like a horn somewhere in Switzerland, and then it's like Ricola, and it just keeps going.
Okay, nice. I didn't know that one, but like that's awesome. Yeah, like the idea is, the larger idea here is that like if brands keep doing the same thing over and 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 over again, eventually it sticks. Obviously, like the thing that they do, if it's like horrendously terrible and awful, then like you should stop. But if it's sensible and logical and you keep doing it over and over and over again, it will stick. And like people who really, really get into consumer research, they analyze that it takes a few times for things to stick. Like the first time it's like soft, like, oh yeah, sure. It's in my peripheral memory. The second time it's like, oh yeah, like I might remember this Ricola thing. I might remember it. The third time I see it, like, oh yeah, like now I can tell my friends about it. So it takes a few times until you actually get it. That's what the concept's all about here. Now, the other part of associative learning is extinction. So the concept of extinction has been interesting. It's like some brands fall into this weird situation where it's like, for instance, like they have, let's say, they've continued to associate themselves with a particular person or a particular like thing. Now they don't want it anymore. Yes, go ahead.
I kind of have an example of that. I think one that comes to mind would be Subway. Like they figured it out like it was like $5 foot long, but then as inflation started driving up prices, it wasn't really sustainable for especially individual business owners of like Subway chains to like have a $5 foot long. But it's like it was already associated with that. That was one of the most successful like campaigns of all time. So it's kind of like that little dilemma that they have going on internally.
Yeah, that's perfect. That example is awesome. Thank you, Dave. Like it's basically like that. It's like now you're in a dilemma. Like you're marketing, like you're saying, like 3 years ago, you had a promotion because you came up with this idea for this $5 sub piece, and like the sales are amazing. Now in today's age, all of a sudden, like it doesn't work. And now you're still in the job. You got to find a solution to this. So you got to find a way to make that extinct and probably come up with something else. So probably come up with something else is like, sure, you come up with something else, but to make it extinct, it takes a lot of work. So what do you have to do to make it extinct? You have to find like counter forces to help make it extinct. So like, an example of this that the textbook tries to articulate is like, so like, does everyone remember Jersey Shore, the television show that used to come on that a long time ago? There used to be this character called Snooki. So basically Snooki, like Coach and Snooki had a little bit of a partnership together. And the Coach is like, oh yeah, Snooki, like, right, like take our product and show it, blah, blah, blah. And like Snooki would always have Coach, and all of a sudden the Coach is like, no, we don't want Snooki. We don't want anything to be associated with Snooki at all. So then what they did is like, it literally started giving her like other luxury brands for her to take. And so it's, like to help like muddle the effect that she's just Coach. So that's one sort of counteracting strategy to extinction. All right, cool. We'll continue down the road. So stimulus generalization. So for instance, the dog starts drooling here, so that sounds like a bell. Yeah, sorry, that's what it means. Okay, so for instance, what this means is basically it's like you can have stimulation to such a degree where it's like even something that sounds remotely close to that of what you know, you immediately associate it with that. So like for instance, like I can't immediately think of an example for some reason in my mind, but like I don't know if I heard something like drums, like blah 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 blah, but it's not necessarily McDonald's, but it's something like that. I'll probably think about McDonald's. Or like, can anyone give me an example perhaps that comes to mind? Something that like it's like the bell. It's like it's not necessarily a bell, but it kind of sounds like a bell. So then the dog immediately knows to start drooling. Yes.
It's like the private label. Like the packaging is very similar to like the brand name, like same color, same lips.
like design, but it's like, you know, like the private label. It's like, I still think it's like associated with like the brand name. For example, like the Listerine bottle with like branded Listerine, then there's like the private label Listerine, they look very similar. I still think it's like you think they're like the same thing, right? Exactly. This is amazing. This is such a great example. It's like, you know, like what's really fascinating is this. It's like, always like this, like the counterfeit industry is a huge market. Like the counterfeit people, like the people who are so like lazy. That's right. They're not necessarily lazy, but like let's say like they're like they'll see like, oh my god, like this iPhone is doing so well. Like let's make a bunch of like knockoffs because we don't want to like work so hard on design. We know it works. We just copy and replicate it. So like this whole like, counterfeit industry, what they'll do is like they'll try to make it as close to the iPhone as possible, like make the packaging as long as we're not getting sued. It's like when we as consumers see it, we're like, oh yeah, like that's the iPhone. Like that's something close to the iPhone. And we might be likely to buy it if we're like price sensitive or something like that. So that is a good example. The piggyback strategy is exactly that, as articulated there. It's like when brands piggyback off the success of another one in order to reap the success of that brand. That's what the piggybacking strategy is all about. Now, stimulus discrimination. So what stimulus discrimination is a very interesting concept. And like it goes into a little bit of like weird sort of like chess strategy with this type of idea. So it's like, for instance, like, does everyone remember like the brand Dove? Does everyone know Dove, right? Can anyone tell me like kind of what Dove stands for? Like recently, what they're about, what they're sort of trying to do? Anyone want to tell me what a guess what Dove's all about? Yes. Is it Nick Hill?
Savin.
Sorry, Savin. Who's Nick Hill? Nick Hill is
On the other side.
Nick Hill? Savin. Awesome. Yeah, Savin, go ahead.
Isn't it like body positivity?
Yes, exactly. So it's like they're all about body positivity. And Savin, like, what is Axe all about?
The exact opposite. Like it's the brand is usually associated with like a guy strays it on a woman, pretty much throw themselves at the guy, kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like Axe is like this like really sort of like they're polar opposites, like you articulated. They're polar opposites, but they're actually under the same parent company. They're both under you. Yes, go ahead.
Axe is like kind of objectifying women, that if you spray this way, another man come be attracted to you.
Right.
And Dove, on the other hand, is focusing more on, as I said, body positivity, and it's catered towards females too. So it's like both ends that never meet. So that's why I give you that like access. They don't necessarily say that they're from the same mother brand. Just that it's not like associated with each other.
Exactly. So it's like literally like they're like people who work in the marketing department of Unilever and within like Axe or even Dove, they'll actually spend time to find ways to help like make it so it appears that they're not linked. It's like they'll make it harder for you to like on their website see, like you have to like go through multiple pages until you see that, oh yeah, like, Unilever has Axe and it has Dove. And they'll like work on weird like psychological campaigns to make it appear that they're distant, but they're actually together, but in the most like legal way possible. So that's what this is all about, stimulus discrimination. Yeah, like I'm sure I can think of other examples, but I'll continue forward with the next piece because I was literally just talking about this. So product associations. So present a soft drink first and then follow, oh sorry, so that's my own note. So basically what that means is like, this is gonna come up in your quiz. And you might be like, oh, what's this quiz question trying to ask you? But basically, what it's asking you is this: it's like, so what ends up happening a lot of times is like, let's say I don't know, I'm a soccer ball company. And like I want to like I don't know, like I want to popularize the soccer ball. I want everyone, because the FIFA World Cup's coming, I want people to buy the soccer ball. So I'm like, oh, soccer, please buy the soccer ball. So now I have a choice. I can either choose like a really I can choose like a really famous song. What's a really popular song right now on the radio, or like what's a trending song right now? Anyone want to tell me? Something popular right now? Song that everyone's listening to? Billboard or something? What's a popular song? Anybody? Popular song? Popular? No? Top song? Yeah, no? Anyone? Nobody listens to music here.
Blinding lights have a big guess.
Blinding lights. Okay, yeah, sure, like blinding lights, right? So it's like I'm a soccer ball. Like first of all, I have to pay so much money to get the blinding lights song. But like, let's say I get the blinding lights song. I'm like, okay, like yeah, I'll associate the soccer ball and blinding lights. So people see the advertisement, they'll be like, oh yeah, blinding lights, soccer ball, sure, I'll buy it. But the thing is this, you be careful. It's like just because you're using a really popular song, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone, like whenever they hear that song, they're gonna think about the soccer ball. Like you're completely relying on the song to help sell the soccer ball. A lot of times it's actually better to come up with like a novel idea, like a novel song itself, that whenever you hear the song, you think about the soccer ball. Because when you're thinking of blinding lights, you're not gonna think of that soccer ball. Like, so that's why people literally come up with their own jingles and stuff, right? Like the reason why I show like the Oliver Jewelers person It's because do people know that jingle? Yeah, I see you out of your head. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like he came up with his own jingle because he wants it to be where it's like the soft drink or like his business, it would be the main thing, and it's not so reliant on the jingle. So it's like that's why I wrote here. It's like present a soft drink first, and then follow with the sound of the jingle. It's generally accepted as being more effective. So you first want to put Oliver Jewelers front, and then you want to have a novel song. So similarly, it's like if I'm Pepsi, instead of having like a really popular song and trying to brand the Pepsi with it, I want to make sure I show Pepsi first and be like, oh, yo, this is the thing that'll quench your thirst. And here's a novel song that comes on top of it to remind you that this will quench your thirst. All right, so continuing onwards with this campaign. So it's basically like, oh yeah, that's what I got going on over there. So like this brand that I was discussing here, it's like basically what they do here is they try to use a lot of different sports figures with a love it and live it campaign to make sure that the brand stays relevant. They continue to keep it going for like years or like at least 2 years. If they don't want to have the constant Messi on the poster or like another soccer player or another athlete, they want to constantly like every month like update it or make it relevant. So we as consumers stay attracted and attached to this brand. That's what they're trying to do with this particular product association. All right, so like, I know slides are boring, but I'll try my best to make it a bit more interesting. So it's like four things here. So in the broad idea of product associations, there's 4 things to think about. Family branding, okay? So an example of this is like this. It's like I've written there, I think I wrote Virgin. Yeah, Virgin is when you think of Virgin, right? Like it has multiple different industries it touches, right? Like can anyone name some of the different things that operate under Virgin? Like what are some of the industries? Yes.
They're a network provider for phones, and they also do like airfare.
Yeah, Virgin's even in airfare, right? It's crazy. It's like there's so many different industries. So basically, yes, go ahead.
They're also radio.
Yeah, exactly. Virgin. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like they are also like it's called family branding, where it's like it's one brand. It's like an umbrella effect. It's like under the umbrella, Virgin is the umbrella, and all these industries sit underneath that umbrella. That's all it is. And like this is one of the techniques of product association. You have a very like lucrative or very successful brand. That's what people use family branding. In terms of product line extensions, it's like I was trying to think of the one that was like kind of interesting because I didn't really think about. This one I didn't really think about. It's like Sunmade. Does anyone know Sunmade? Anyone see those raisins? So like you might have gone your Halloween. Do people still trick or treat here? I stopped trick or treat a long time ago. Like plus like I don't know. Like my dentist is like soft, you know. Like so I don't know where that stuff. Like I remember I used to get these like Sunmade raisins, and I used to I was like, wow, like raisins are candy. But then I kind of grew attached to them and kind of understood that they're actually not that bad. But yeah, for instance, like Sunmade, a natural product line extension is like they're gonna make you raisins. They made raisin bread, right? It's like it's logical. It's like it's the next step in terms of the product line. That's what that means. And like in our understanding of consumers, when we think that Sunmade is making raisin bread, we're not going to question it as heavily. We're like, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense. I'll probably buy it. Licensing. So somebody said it today. I forget. Somebody talked a little bit about with their example about how like you have to pay to put something. Who was it? Someone mentioned it today. Who was it? Somebody mentioned it when they're talking about the brands that they saw. I don't know why it's not coming to me who said it, but basically the idea is like this. It's like we will literally pay, but brands will pay so much money to have like their whatever, their piece, their brand, their picture, their image, suits. It was suits, Red Bull, yes. Suits and Red Bull. So it's like you will literally like they'll pay so much money to have their brand associated with a TV show, a radio spot, music, a newspaper, a bus shelter, yes.
I guess another example would be I kind of spoke about this in an earlier class called Mission Impossible, like the movie series they have, like the BMWs or like Marvel, like they have Audi. So a lot of car brands really like put a lot into their product placement for those type of movies and series.
Exactly. And if you take a more like, because we always have our own biases, but if you take like a more prescriptive lens when you watch like movies or TV shows, try to notice like the products that are there. And like for most people, you won't notice. You won't make the association that like Suits is promoting Red Bull. That's why brands or like people who work in this industry like it, because people don't like to be fooled. People don't like to be told like we're shoving like this down your throat. It's all like associative, where it's like you don't realize, and over time like it just slowly kind of builds into your mind. And that's where a lot of brands like this whole licensing thing. My example kind of sucks. I don't know why I didn't think of something better, but it's like brands who pay like the color of the CN Tower and pieces like that. That'd be like one example of licensing. Lookalike packaging was articulated very nicely, where it's like people like literally copy the brands, successful brands, to try to make it seem like it's good. So that's what lookalike packaging is all about. All right, cool. But I wanted to caution you about lookalikes. Is like the counterfeit industry is rapid, but it's like you will severely be cracked down, particularly in Canada and other countries. Like you will 100% be in somewhat trouble producing in mass scale because large brands like Louis Vuitton and others will literally spend millions and millions of dollars to help protect their IP. So that's that. Cool. But don't worry, like you won't get questions about counterfeit stuff on the quiz or anything like that. In terms of like this, so this is our next one. We talked about like classical conditioning. The other one that's like really, really important. There's only two that are really, really important. This is the second one that's really, really important. It's this one. It's called instrumental conditioning. I always get confused. It's like operant conditioning or instrumental conditioning. It's the same thing. Same thing. Instrumental, operant, same thing. And all this is, it's like a more advanced version of classical conditioning. Like you will most certainly be asked a question about this. It's just like as long as you understand it, you'll 100% be fine. So like a good way to think about this is like this. It's like, hey, is the advanced version of it's like yes, like you can get the dog to understand to drool when you hit the bell. But now, what if you can teach the dog tricks, right? Like teaching an old dog new tricks. That's what this is all about. It's like, what can you do to help teach someone to do something? And like, what are the reward mechanisms that you put into place to get them to do something? So it's like people can like, you can teach your dog to dance if you like have like you shape it properly. So like if you like show them and you teach them and you incentivize them, that's what shaping is all about. And if you, for instance, like I've written here, it's like B.F. Skinner, he like literally like, I don't know, I'm not sure like how B.F. Skinner did this stuff back in the day or like what was going on, but like really like he taught, it's taught with teeth, sorry, he taught animals to play the dance, play ping pong, and he literally rewarded them for doing that, and they did it. And a good way to remember the difference is to keep in mind that in instrumental learning, the response is performed because it's instrumental. So yeah, I don't know, that's nice, that's good. Oh, I like that. So a good way to think about instrumental conditioning is like the reward mechanism is instrumental in the learning process. That's why it's instrumental. All right. So a part of instrumental conditioning or operant conditioning is there's a lot of pieces that we've unpacked though. It's like reinforcement is a very, very, very big concept in this whole field, right? It's like, how do you incentivize people and how do you reinforce? It's like, think about it this, like think about it this, like either A, or think about your own parents, or think about when you're going to be a parent, or think about it like your own cousins or family members who are parents right now. You have to parent your kids, right? You have to parent the kid. And a lot of people will use mechanisms, will use reinforcements, right? Like there's always like schools of thoughts of like, oh, like should you be like easy with kids? Should you be like rough? Should you be like not rough, but like should you like be a bit more disciplined with the kids and all that type of stuff? And that's like I think a lot of people can connect to that concept, and that's what reinforcement is all about. So basically, it's like consumers who receive compliments, for instance, they'll like so for instance, like I'm not saying this would happen, but like imagine I was the professor for this class every single week, and I were to like compliment a few of you like every time, like oh Yoeli, that's great, like such an amazing contribution, like you're doing such a good job, like thank you so much, something like that, or I said something very personable. I assume, I don't know if this is true, but I assume that you'd be like, oh yeah, this class is great, like I want to go back to the class, and like you continue to come to the class because you got that compliment, and that's what sort of the positive reinforcement example would be. In terms of another example though, it's like negative reinforcement though is like it's not negative. Don't get it confused. It's like negative reinforcement is not a bad thing. Negative reinforcement is like it's usually like almost fear. It's like it's a concept of using fear. It's like how do you enforce people to do something by eliminating fear? That's what negative reinforcement is. So for example, it's like I haven't seen this, but like the example that the textbook uses is like for instance, a retailer will be like, oh yeah, we'll cover the tax. For the product, the coffee that you're going to buy, we'll cover the tax. We'll get rid of the negative for you. We'll get rid of the negative for you. Here you go. Here's the coffee. It's on us. It's on us. So I don't know where that exists. Like I haven't seen that personally, but that's an example that the textbook like to use. But these are powerful. These are powerful, but it gets a bit more complex when we think about these two other pieces. So like these are the positive ones, but the two negative ones are the following. It's like punishment, right? It's like that's why I use the parenting example. Like sorry, yes, go ahead.
For the negative reinforcement example, could it be also like when companies offer like a free trial? So like then you don't have to opt in and like pay. So then you like get the product without paying first, like the first month free.
Yes, that actually does work because you're right. Because the cost of, for instance, like a monthly cable service or to first try the product, there's a cost associated with it. So by eliminating that cost barrier, they're eliminating the negative. So that is actually an example. That's right. Perfect. Nice. Wow. Great. Thank you. In terms of other examples of, so we're the good side. Now we're going to the bad side, right? So punishment, right? It's like very simply like punishment. I'm trying to think. Like, let's say, for instance, like there's someone in this class who's like really misbehaving. They're constantly chit-chatting, they're disrupting the class, they're like saying things that aren't valuable, or like, I don't know, something like that. Punishment would be like, I'd be like, yo, please, like, hey, please, like, go sit in the corner, or like put on this hat, like sit in the corner, or like, please step outside. That'd be punishment. It's like directly telling the person, it's like, hey, it's like, this is not a desirable behavior. I need to showcase that, hey, like, this is not good. So like, for instance, like when you associate with brands, like for instance, like if I drink this coffee and it makes me sick, that's bad. That's punishment to me. I'm not gonna, like, that forms a bad memory about coffee, this coffee. So I'm not gonna like the coffee. And that's what that's another example of punishment. So it's like you go to a restaurant, you get food poisoning, you're probably not gonna go to that restaurant again because they punished you. They literally punished you for trying the product. Extinction. So extinction is interesting. It's a bit more, it requires a deeper level of thinking to understand extinction. So extinction, for instance, is like if every day I were to, I don't know, like I were to compliment Krishna. I would be like, Krishna, like every time you come to class, like, Krishna, thank you for coming here and being so great and sitting in the front and being so participative. By the third class or fourth class, Krishna's gonna be like, what? This is too much. Or he'll be like, oh, like I'm so used to it. Like the compliment will lose its novelty. Like it will no longer be as relevant, and it'll soon become extinct. And that's what this example is. It's like over time, things will become extinct, and like that's what you have to be careful about in terms of reinforcement. How to keep playing the game to make sure that the reinforcement does not become extinct. So two like common ways that we see in the marketplace is these two: is frequency marketing and gamification. Can anyone give me an example of frequency? Like when you see a frequency marketing? And yes.
Radio ads, usually if you like have them, they go on for a couple of months. So like the books for them.
Yes, exactly. Like exactly. One is like duration, the frequency, and another one is like another example that I'm sure a lot of you have seen is like air miles, something like that. It's like over time, the more you collect the air miles, the more points that you get, or like shoppers optimum cards, or I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that is also an example. Gamification. Any examples of gamification? Anyone has seen in the marketplace? Yes.
Oh, well, Simple Cash does a really good job with it because they market towards like Gen Z. So when you send money, you can like send it as an emoji, or like they always try to like make it fun to send money.
And when you get those emojis and those pieces, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like, oh, this is great?
Yeah, you're not really spending like real money, or like not sending real money, more like tokens.
And to you, like it feels easy, or it feels like it feels like nice. Okay, nice. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great example. And what gamification really thrives when they can take like really like hard concepts and make them really easy. That's where gamification really thrive in the marketplace. Okay, cool. So cognitive learning theory. Okay, this is a concept that I want you all to kind of try your best to bear with me to understand. So cognitive behavioral theory is very, very, very complex. So we covered number one. Number one are with three like pillars for today. One was about like operative conditioning as well as classical conditioning, all that type of stuff, behavioral stuff. Now we're going to talk about cognitive learning theory. There's not too much to say about it because it's so complex and people have studied this for their entire lives. But like, we're just going to cover like the main concepts. So cognitive learning theory is very simply like this. It's like the internal mental processes that happen in your mind to understand things. And like our minds are very, very, very complex. It's like every single person in this room, like our minds are different. It's like no one's mind is the same. And because of that, that's what makes cognitive learning theory pretty complex. But for instance, like when people do these like really massive and controlled research studies, they come up with insights and data to help teach people like us, marketers, a little bit about how the general population thinks. And those insights help inform what we do. And if we're really good marketers, we make sure that we get a really good target audience and we survey that target audience in the most unbiased way possible and gather as many insights as possible. And the more niche and more target the audience, the more true the insights typically are. But for instance, like some examples of like how this has been used in the past is like cognitive learning theory. It's like researchers have found, for example, it's like if you are in a room and you smell like cleaning detergents, people feel the need to want to clean up. That's like one association that they've noticed. Another, for instance, is like if like imagine this as a briefcase. If I put it here, like in the, I don't know, like right in front of me, like advertised like briefcase, it's super informal and everything. People in this classroom would generally be more competitive. I don't know how this works, but apparently like, that is what the research has shown. So that's another example of cognitive learning theory. But in terms of like one concept that will come up that you'll probably want to understand is observational learning. So it's like basically it's like this. It's like if you like when you're growing up, or when you watch TV, you watch like, Suits, you watch your favorite superhero, you watch your favorite television show, and you see that character, and you kind of see what the character does, and you're like, oh wow, this is what the character does, it's so cool, and you start to model your behavior, or you start to model things based off of that character, and that's what observational learning is. It's like by learning from others, you observe that and you learn from it, and it informs the way that you act. So like one example that like these deep marketing research scientists have found is like, has anyone seen this before? Both like Boba dolls. Anyone see this? Anyone? Yes.
I'm pretty sure like at these small carnivals, I went to one in America, it was near the pier. You have these baseballs and you try to knock them down.
Yes, exactly. So like, it's widely known they're supposed to knock these down. Like when you see this, like I don't know why. I'm not a violent person, but like, when I see this, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I gotta like do something about this. But like generally speaking, like Boba dolls, what happens is like exactly articulated. Boba dolls, like they did this famous experiment where they took like 5-year-olds and they're like, oh, like here's a Boba doll, like, and then they leave the 5-year-old with this doll. The doll is the same height as the kid, basically the same height. They're both in a room together, and they're like just like chill, like 10 minutes, do your thing. And if they showed the kid like some like violence, they showed them like some like stuff where Boba dolls are falling down or what have you, then when you put the kid in the room, they start like beating up the Boba doll. It doesn't matter who they are. But if you don't show them like that violence and you leave the kid in the room with the Boba doll, the kids wouldn't like touch the Boba doll. The Boba doll is fine. Nobody's gonna attack the Boba doll. In most cases. In most cases. So that's like one sort of understanding of cognitive learning theory. It's like we are complex, interesting people, and we learn through a lot of different ways, including observing. Just the practice of observing teaches us a lot. And for instance, like the hope and dream is like by listening, for instance, to this class, or by hearing me speak, you are learning from that, and it informs like the way that you'll do this quiz, and it'll inform like what you do in your careers and how you continue to succeed. So that's the whole idea of cognitive learning theory. Now we covered pillar 1, pillar 2. Pillar 3 is also very complex because like I can't do justice to explain this stuff in just a few short minutes. Basically, like memory, right? Memory is like has such a big concept. Like memory has like 3 different sort of pieces to it, right? You're definitely gonna see some of the quiz. So it's gonna ask you like, oh, like what's the parts of memory? So I want you to try to remember this one. You're literally good. Memory has 3 parts to it. It's like encoding, storage, retrieval. Okay. So what this means is encoding. Sorry, encoding is like the first part. It's like you take in the information. Imagine like computers or processing. You code the memory. You got the memory inside of you, or you booted it up. It's been encoded inside of you. Now the next step is storage, right? So once you've made the Microsoft Word document, you got to save the Microsoft Word document either as a PDF or as a Word document. So you're going to save it on your computer. So now you've saved it on your computer. So first, you might see something, and depending on a variety of factors, it either gets stored or it doesn't get stored. So storage, and then finally there's retrieval. So if you do a good job of saving your Microsoft Word document, when you go back to your file folder, you'll be able to find the document. But if you don't do a really good job of saving the file, you probably will have a hard time finding that document. And you're probably like scouring through your browser or your files to figure out where this document is. So I want you to think about memory a little bit about that. It's like the encoding part, there's the storage part, and there's the retrieval. Sometimes they call it extraction. So that's the way to think about it. It's and the analogy that I like to use is like saving a document on your computer. In terms of like one way that people have found, like in terms of shopping behavior, a way that works really well is like a shopping list. Like researchers have found that when you write things down, as well as like when you actually have a list in front of you, your success or your sort of accuracy of purchasing what you want is obviously going to be a lot higher. So a shopping list, for instance, has been a very powerful technique. So that's why, for instance, like brands might send you like, oh, like here's a recommended shopping list, or here we'll put some stuff in your cart, or like here's like, or like it's programmed in a household. It's like before somebody goes out, it's like here's our shopping list. Here's what we actually want to purchase. And like that is sort of like the idea here. It's like people have noticed that shopping lists work really well with memory, so they constantly keep coming back to that. Another key part of memory, which is why memory is so complex, is its personal relevance plays a big factor in terms of memory. Like some things that are really personally relevant to you, you will remember more than what might not, like I might not remember the same thing that you remember, because what you think what I say might actually be more personally relevant to you versus person B. And because it's more personally relevant, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can associate that with my own episodic memories, my own past experiences. So I'll remember that a lot better. So like one of the key concepts here is episodic memories. So for instance, like the textbook defines this as being like, for instance, like a couple for their first like date or for the first dance, the song that like they had for that, it's like they will try really hard to remember that because it has that episodic memory, like it has a very, very powerful emotional connection associated with it. So it'll be a lot harder for them to forget it. And like for instance, like if a brand plays that song, it's probably gonna like trigger that memory. And it could, if that's a positive thing, then they'll probably have a positive reaction to it. So that's what that's all about. The episodic memories are particular moments, key moments in your life that are triggered based off of experiences that you've had. And it's hard, like, and everyone varies in terms of what those are. But the key thing to remember is this, it's like the power of narrative stories. It's like brands that are good storytellers that they can use like humanize, or they can really storytell really well and connect to emotions. They're the best at triggering episodic memories. And episodic memories typically allow people to actually feel a connection with the brand. And like what I always tell, like what I was telling my other classes, like even if you're doing any sort of case competition, if you're doing any sort of like presentation, in any sort of like pitch competition, or even if you're trying to sell something to somebody, if you can personalize it, if you can tell a story about like why you do what you do or what you're trying to do, people actually can connect to that a lot better. If I just come in here starting like marketing is this is what memory is, and I don't need to tell you anything about me, I don't personalize it or add any stories to it, it's a lot harder for it to connect to you. So that's why like brands, like the big high level concept is like brands are like people. Brands are literally like people. Brands have a reputation and brands have stories. And if you're able to tell those stories really well, then you'll do a very, very, very good job at creating connections with your consumers or your customers. It's like mastering the art of storytelling is a very, very, very important concept. Cool. All right. So if for those like people, my technical friends in the audience, like if you really want to get deep into memory, you can think about all these different aspects of it. It's like there's a lot of different technical components to it. It's like there's short-term memory and there's long-term memory. Short-term memory is like it just hits through the attention threshold, where it's like you just saw it, you remembered it, but it doesn't necessarily last. It doesn't get into the storage part. And then long-term memory gets into the storage part, and it's really easy for you to extract. That's the high-level concept. But feel free to, if you're really interested in this type of stuff, you can learn a little bit more about how short-term and long-term memory play in part. Cool. Something to think about though, a concept that you'll definitely be asked about is spreading activation. So spreading activation is very, very interesting. It's basically the concept that we don't think about things in just one linear way. We don't think about things in one linear way. We think about things as like associated. We think about things on like a large sort of spectrum and like nodes and connections and all this type of stuff. And we have like mental mind maps and things that are going on in our heads. Like we don't like, you don't just think coffee is coffee. You don't think of coffee as coffee is dark, coffee is hot. You know, it's not like coffee is refreshing or coffee is awakening. Coffee is like enriching. I don't know, like we have all these associations. So for instance, like when people think of perfumes or cologne, for instance, but there's all these different ideas that come to it. They'll think of the brands, they'll think about like the attributes of it, they'll think about like people that have been associated with it. If it's young, they'll think of celebrities, they'll think of like ideas, people, concepts. There's a lot of different parts, moving parts to it. And it's like, you have to think about it like that. It's like when you're trying to get people to understand something, it's good to think about it in terms of the map. And if you can spread across the map and touch different parts of the map, you're spreading the activation. You're spreading the activation. That's one key concept that I would like you to remember. All right, we're almost there. We're almost there. Ooh, yeah, we're almost there. Yeah, because I do want to take a break. I've been rambling for a long time. Problems with memory. Okay, after this slide, we're good. We're good for a while. So, ooh, thank you. Okay, so problems with memory measures. Okay, so like nobody's memory is perfect, right? It's like, for instance, like I clearly made a lot of mistakes. I thought, is this Sabit? Yeah. I thought Sabit was nickel. Like clearly, like my memory, I had a short-term memory lapse, right? It's like it happens every single day. It's like nobody has. Obviously, there's some people that have like amazing memories and they can remember things like that happened years ago and they have amazing memories. But a majority of people, our memory is like we have this problem with remembering things, or there's short-term memories as you age. There's a lot of different components to it. So it's like you have to remember three concepts in understanding memory. So one is there's response biases. So this is a broader concept for all consumer behavior, but they packaged it in the memory section. It's like, if I ask you to do a survey for me, right? And like you only have like 2 minutes to do the survey, but it has like 10 questions in it. And you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this stupid survey that coach gave me? Like, I don't want to do this. I want to watch Suits. I want to watch the baseball game, or I want to play with my friends. I want to host a party. It's like, for instance, in that case, you might just like go like, yeah. You don't go like, yes. Because you're like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I don't want to deal with this nonsense. Like, because like a lot of people, like, they don't want to deal with it. So you have to understand, like, response bias is a huge thing. It's a huge thing in consumer behavior and all across surveys as well as marketing research. It's like a lot of people will just say yes, get you underway, not having to deal with the problem. So it's like that is one of the big problems of response biases. And it's important to remember, it's like how to eliminate that is to increase understanding, increase incentives, and make it as easy as possible for the person, as well as make sure that whoever you're asking, like you understand a little bit more about them, or like you can at least inform them a little bit about what they're doing without encouraging too much biases. That's one very, very important concept to think about. But more related to memory is memory lapses. Like I mentioned, I had an example of a memory lapse. And then memory for facts versus feelings. So it's like that political commentator Ben Shapiro goes like, oh yeah, facts don't care about your feelings, or he says things like that. It's like it's kind of like if you wrench up that concept, it's like memory for facts versus feelings. It's like our memories aren't really designed too amazingly to remember facts. Like if I say like 16.6 is the circumference of this desk, and that is 10 centimeters. I don't know if y'all remember that 2 years from now, but like if, for instance, I share a story, or if it has some feelings associated with it, it will somehow, I can't explain all the processes to you, but it will somehow be able to connect more to your memory. And that is what the whole idea is, like memory for facts versus feelings. So you be careful about like trying to get people to think about facts and like think that people will remember that for a very, 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 very long time. All right. Yeah, these are just questions. These are questions I thought I'd ask, but we're good. What time is it? It is 9:38. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We've been an hour in, which is great. I know Roshi has your quizzes at the end. I usually do my quizzes in the middle. How about this? What would you like? How does everybody feel? Does everybody want to do the quizzes early, get it out of the way? What's sort of the appetite here? At the end? Yeah. And early and
Yeah, a break and a quiz. We're done.
it's fresh your memories. What? There's still more. I promise you. I still have more in the tank, but I think like I'm thinking about everyone's learning, and I understand how people learn, and I realize like if my frequency marketing is so much, it's gonna start getting annoying, and I also have to understand to vary up my visuals. I think about all the different components and how to make sure I have to add emotions now, and I have to find ways to make it connect with you. So I'm thinking about that. So I'm realizing like, yeah, we need to have something in between right now. So if you want, we could do it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we have other stuff like that we get to learn in the quiz?
Yes.
Or is the quiz?
Wait, so no. Up until like I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Sorry. This we've covered everything that you'll need to know for the quiz.
Okay, yeah, then let's just do it.
Yeah.
Break.
You guys have a break?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a new concept. Sorry, like my class doesn't have that, so sorry. Okay, that's what I thought. So, how long are these breaks typically? Sorry. But how long is the quiz period? Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, how about this? Okay. How about this? Everyone can take a 5-minute break. Sorry, please, because there's a reason. There's definitely a reason. I promise you. You can take a 5-minute break, and then at 9:45, 9:46, we'll get started with the quiz. That's okay. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right, thank you. So do your thing, and we'll be back very soon.